Hello, my name is James Allen, and I am putting this video together to share some thoughts and ideas that I have about a system for our courts that prevents inefficiencies, errors, and corruption in procedural law. So right from the start, I want to say that this can be built today. And a little bit about myself. My background is in primarily accounting. I have an undergraduate degree in political science from the University of Tampa, a bachelor degree in accounting from University of South Florida, and a master's in accounting information systems. I was president of the Accounting Honor Society while I was in school, Beta Alpha Psi, and was hired by went to work for one of the big international accounting firms directly out of school. I'm a certified fraud examiner, and I was a certified public accountant in Florida for 13 years. And hopefully will be a certified public accountant here in California, but I'm having some real difficulty with the Board of Accountancy here. They're quite difficult. So yeah, I wanted to say that this system, the technology exists for this system to be built today. And it does solve the problem of inefficiency, error, and corruption in procedural law. So there's a lot to unpack here. And, the whole system is built in my mind. And largely because there's the California Rules of Civil Procedure, the majority of the system is converting the text in the rules via text in these rules of procedures into logic and building that along the critical path of litigation. This system has a blockchain component, distributed ledger component, and just real quickly, why blockchain is important. Blockchain is critical, actually. This system can't happen without blockchain, because what we're building, what I'm building, is a system that has the immutable transparency that blockchain plus distributed ledger offers. And it also ensures that when a document is filed in litigation, that it gets filed. And equally, if not more importantly, it also ensures that nothing that wasn't filed is backdated as if it was filed. That's an impossibility. And I can tell you firsthand that is indeed a problem and something that absolutely happens. And so the distributed ledger functionality is important because we have to ensure the integrity of the historic, court records. And with distributed ledgers, of course, the more iterations you have of the ledger, the more secure the system is. It's more difficult to alter with a 51% attack. Maybe, as you've heard with Bitcoin, there's a 51% attack. And the same rule would, occur here. So, as an example of a problem that this system would, or an error that this system would prevent, let's say that you're in litigation, civil litigation, and you wanted to file Form C, which is a fictitious form, but for the sake of showing the functionality of this system that I'm describing to you, you want to file Form C. But the rules of procedure require that both Form A and Form B are filed before Form C is filed. In the current system, in the world of text, you can file Form C without having filed Form A or Form B. And maybe a human catches that error, maybe they don't, or maybe the error is caught after a judgment has been rendered. And that error is of sufficient legal weight to overturn that judgment, and then potentially the litigants get to go through an appeal process and then go back to court and do it all over again. So there are as it stands, the vast majority of Americans do not have meaningful access to the courts. And I think we're all on the same page there. And so then we're talking about those that do. Now, those that do, there is I am estimating, the total, it's an estimation, but I would say a large percentage at least can barely afford it. In other words, an appeal and going back and arguing in the lower courts again is, they can't do it. They don't have that kind of money. They barely made it through the first time. They mortgaged the house, ran up the credit cards. And so that functionality alone of preventing those kind of errors is reason enough to move forward with the system, but there's a lot more. And this is a very high overview of the system itself. I want to let you know that I have the whole thing etched in my brain. I could build the entire system now. What I've had to do when I moved to California a couple of years ago to survive is drive for Uber. I was a whistleblower in Florida. I can't stand that label, frankly, because it's a victim label, I believe, and I don't like it. I prefer, and excuse my language, to be referred to as a badass motherfucker, because, excuse my language truly, because when you go up against the kind of people, as an accountant, it was my job, it's what I promised to do, but I mean, there's some pretty nasty people out there, and when they turn their focus towards you in a negative way, it's a world of hurt. But you know what? That's okay. I'm standing strong and I'm moving forward, and through justice, more justice has been inflicted on them, due justice, than the pain, that's been levied at me. But anyway, I drove for Uber when I got here, and I've done 5,712 trips, and I've pitched this idea all over Silicon Valley, software engineers, VCs, and I have not found, and to judges in San Francisco, attorneys aplenty, and with just a handful of people responded negatively. The vast majority are incredibly excited about this. The software engineers can build it now. This system can be built right now. So just keep that in mind. So I want to move past the initial iteration. I want to talk to you about some more exciting aspects of it. One is anonymous litigation. The basic premise of anonymous litigation is, why should a judge have any idea what color your skin is? And for that matter, why should a judge have any information whatsoever about the case except your claim, the evidence that has been submitted to support your claim, and the defendant's evidence to counter the claim? That is the information that needs to be put in front of the judge. The fact that you might be deemed arrogant, because everyone has conscious biases, and you can trigger that. And why should you even that possibility be there to trigger a conscious bias? But what's worse is we have subconscious biases that we have no control over. By throwing all that information out there, it absolutely skews. It can't help but skew the outcome of judgments. Anonymous litigation means that the attorneys won't know who the judge is. The judge won't know who the attorneys are. All of it is traceable in a transparent system to tie it back. But in the litigation process, you don't want the judge to know who the attorneys are. You don't want the attorneys to know who the judges are. You don't want anyone to know. What's important is the relevant facts of the case, the claim, and making a fair judgment, regardless of who it is. That is the basic premise of anonymous litigation. We will get there, and it is absolutely what we need to do. With this system, this creates a foundation from which that additional system will operate upon. I'm very excited about that. I think there's so many great things that will happen when this occurs, and it will happen. And there's a lot to talk about. There's there's a lot to think about. But this is just meant to be a high overview of what I've been kind of pulling together. The other part of this is it is inevitable that procedural law in the future, and I think it should be today, once a system is built, we start passing procedural law in code form. So with this system, Congress will have the system, and you can do test runs of new litigation or new procedural laws, or proposed procedural laws, build it into the system, use historic transactions to see how litigation would transpire and the impact that it would have on historic cases, and then make sure that you have it tailored to the intent of Congress and what this does. And this is one of the most beautiful aspects of it. What this does is you have universal application of procedural law day one. Day one, all of this nonsense of procedural rules being rolled out, and every single judge interpreting it and what it means. And then within a circuit, then there's the application of law is not consistent. People are getting different judgments on the same facts with the same claims. And once there's enough chaos within a circuit, then the Court of Appeals steps in, and then they try to clear things up. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they create more chaos than before. Then in the best case scenario is they do clear things up. Then within the Court of Appeals, then there's working it out there. It is archaic, it is arbitrary, and it is something we have to stop today. It has to stop. With this system, we will have universal application procedural law day one, and that's exciting. So I want to leave on this thought. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have. I know this system is going to be built. I hope you're excited about it, and maybe perhaps we could even work together to get this thing done. This is my commitment to this country, to the world. This can be rolled out to anyone that wants to use it, tailored to their rules, not to our rules, to their rules. However, it's a transparent system where the shenanigans and the chaos that take place today in the courts are substantially mitigated. But the closing thought is, here in the United States, we created government for one purpose: to protect our rights and our interests. Today, the vast majority of Americans do not have access to the courts. This cannot go on any longer. No longer. This has to be changed today. So, I hope that you find this of interest, and any questions that you may have, I'm happy to answer them. And as an aside, this is my donation. I have no financial desire to make a penny off of this. In fact, I'm putting my time in this for free. I just want it done and available to be used, so we can move forward to this better world that many of us, especially here in California, thank God that I'm here, are trying to bring about, where everyone has equal access to the courts, and we're moving away from the chaos that I came from, which is the Southeast United States, specifically Florida. It's terrible there. So